Putin is on the edge. If anything, Ukraine's counter-invasion of Russia at Kursk, which caught even American officials by surprise, blatantly showed how vulnerable Putin's regime is. Rumors of high-level officials in Putin's camp plotting a coup are beginning to swirl again. He's quickly losing the popular vote, as the average Russian no longer unconditionally backs him, and you can't blame them. The emotional impact of the prolonged conflict and the numerous government missteps have all boiled over to reveal one thing: Putin's regime isn't as invincible as we all thought. But there might just be one trump card left for Putin to play. And ironically, that card is President Donald Trump. This guy. One thing's for sure, Russia's done it once. And they might just do it again. The whole world is watching in anticipation as Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris are neck and neck in the race to become the next president of the United States. The stakes could never have been higher, with the United States being a key player in global politics. But who's a key player in U.S. politics? For years now, Vladimir Putin has been sidestepping whenever anyone broaches the subject of foreign electoral interference. Putin has maintained Russia's stance as nothing but a bystander, eager to see who makes their way into the White House, just like everyone else. Putin, however, doesn't necessarily have the best reputation when it comes to telling the truth. The 2016 election saw Trump step into the White House, and the 2024 election sees him attempting to repeat history. However, the political landscape today is quite different from what it once was. The only constant, it seems, is Russia. Now, this may be a good time for you to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button if you love geopolitics. Let's get back to the video. The 2016 elections saw Trump become the 45th president of the United States. However, according to the 448-page Mueller report on foreign electoral interference, members of Trump's campaign had at least 200 recorded contacts with Russian officials. So, does this mean Vladimir Putin put Trump in the White House? And will he be willing to do it again? The answer to the first question remains unclear. Yes, Putin personally oversaw Russia's interference in the 2016 United States elections, codenamed Project Lakta. But Putin putting Trump in the White House would be too vivacious a claim. The second question has a relatively straightforward answer, however. Yes, Putin wants to see Trump win the 2024 elections. To understand why, as in, what does Putin have to gain from Trump, we have to go back to the 2016 elections. The 2016 elections were unlike any other in the history of the United States for several reasons. On one hand, Hillary Clinton had just become the Democratic Party's first female candidate for the presidency. On the other hand, her stint as a forerunner was met with one controversy after another. But something in particular happened just a week before the Democratic convention that almost saw Clinton's race come to an end before it ever began. Something that had to do with Guccifer 2.0. Accusations 2.0 was a group of hackers who released well over 20,000 email correspondence between the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee, the DNC. The emails released by WikiLeaks showed that the DNC, despite its claims of neutrality, had a clear bias toward Clinton. In fact, well before the primaries had even taken place, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairwoman of their Democratic National Committee, and the Clinton campaign discussed financial arrangements. To be fair, Schultz was forced to resign almost immediately after the emails were leaked. But the damage had been done, and it had been done just a week before the Democratic Party announced its candidate for president. The email leaks have often been cited as the major cause for Clinton's loss to Trump, although there were several other reasons. Still, it was almost too obvious that this was a purposeful attempt at diminishing Clinton's credibility and helping Donald Trump get to the White House. The timing could not have been better, or worse, depending on how you look at it. You see, Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, initially refused to name his source, but he ultimately claimed that it was not Russian. The CIA, on the other hand, told the U.S. intelligence community that Putin was behind all of it. This still doesn't answer the question, why Putin? I mean, what did Putin have against Clinton? Several former Obama administration officials said that when Clinton was Secretary of State, she was by far the most aggressive and outspoken U.S. official when it came to countering Putin's efforts to consolidate his power domestically and to expand his sphere of influence in the region and beyond. However, some experts believe that Putin, who's never really been a popular figure in U.S. politics, had another reason to derail Clinton's campaign. Simply, he might have wanted to humiliate her like she did to him in 2014. That was the year Clinton caused an outcry in Russia when she likened Vladimir Putin to Hitler when Russia annexed parts of Ukraine. Either way, Putin got his way, and in the end, Trump won 304 of the electoral votes against Clinton's 227. But with this landslide win, Trump had some serious house cleaning to do. In July 2017, Trump decided to put an end to conversations about Putin's involvement in his presidency by claiming that he, unlike Clinton, wanted to increase the military's budget. Understanding the conflict between the two superpowers, Trump claimed that this would have been the last thing Putin wanted, restating the fact that the Russian president actually wanted Clinton to win. But that was clearly not the case. At a 2018 summit in Helsinki, Putin stated that he wanted Trump to win because of the US president's alleged commitment to improving relations between the two countries. When asked, however, if Russia had anything to do with the outcome of the 2016 elections, Putin sidestepped the question. To be fair, so did Trump, and he redirected everyone toward the bigger controversy, Clinton's leaked emails. Putin says he wants Harris to win the 2024 elections. Putin also says Ukrainians are Nazis and drug addicts. With Clinton, it was next to impossible for Putin to hide his dislike for the Democratic candidate. She lobbied against Russia on every major platform when she was Secretary of State. And while Harris was no outright supporter of Mother Russia either, Putin favored her enough to advocate for her. But at a time when things are heating up in the Russo-Ukrainian war, with the United States announcing its unwavering support for the little guy, is an endorsement from Putin what Harris needed? No. In fact, Trump might just have to call up Putin to thank him for helping him win again. Before Harris, Putin had endorsed her predecessor and the incumbent U.S. President Joe Biden during his bid for re-election. His endorsement for Harris, however, is gaining traction, and Trump's taken it upon himself to remind the media that nothing good can come from Putin. Oh, by the way, he called Putin a genius in 2022. Just thought to put that out there. You may have noticed Trump making a spectacle of the Russo-Ukrainian war and using it as a focal point in his campaign. Well, Trump actually had an opportunity to influence the war in 2019, but instead chose to carry out his personal agenda in what is today known as the Trump-Ukraine scandal. You see, Trump was accused of withholding $400 million in military aid to Ukraine to pressure President Volodymyr Zelensky into investigating Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden's dealings in Ukraine. Trump's demand included a conspiracy theory about a Democratic National Committee server linked to Ukraine, which had no factual basis. A whistleblower complaint revealed the alleged coercion, prompting a federal investigation that ultimately led to Trump's impeachment in December 2019 by the House of Representatives. He was charged with abusing the power of his office for personal political gain and obstructing Congress during the investigation. Although the House impeached Trump, the Republican-controlled Senate acquitted him in early 2020. The event raised significant concerns about how Trump's actions could have undermined Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression. Alexander Vindman, a key witness during the impeachment hearings and former director of European Affairs, suggested that Trump's actions weakened Ukraine's ability to counteract Russia, a situation that could have lingering effects on the nation's security and international alliances. On the 6th of August 2024, the Ukrainian military conducted a sneak attack on the southern Kursk region, taking over parts of Russian territory. This would be the first time in several decades that Russian land had been annexed, and not the other way around. It's clear that Kiev's surprise attack reinforced something Putin saw coming: Ukraine gaining ground. Now, admittedly, the Russian military has done tons more damage than Ukraine with the September 2024 airstrike in Lviv, killing 7 people. However, Ukraine is willing to show Russia that it can and will fight to the end. Ukraine is the underdog everyone's rooting for. Countries all across the world denounced the Russian annexation of Ukrainian land. Europe severed all ties with Russia, fueling an energy crisis, but remaining steadfast in its blockade. The United States still has proven to be Ukraine's greatest ally, with several billion dollars being allocated for the Ukrainian defense. But all of that could end if Trump is elected in the 2024 elections. Russia clearly has a lot to gain from Trump, and it makes sense why Putin would want Trump back in the Oval Office, despite his seemingly unwavering support for Kamala. Many experts believe that endorsing Biden and then Harris was a calculated move to get Trump to lead the polls. There's another country itching to see Trump make his way back into the White House, arguably at par with Russia when it comes to being controversial in American politics. China has announced its unfaltering support for the Republican nominee too. At first, it might seem like the People's Republic would prefer anyone over Trump. After all, the Republican candidate made it clear that he wanted to intensify the US-China trade war. However, there's more to it than just trade. From China's long-term perspective, Trump's presidency could benefit them economically. For instance, Beijing has aimed to drive a wedge between the US and Europe, preventing unified policies that could harm Chinese interests. Trump's antagonistic views on the European Union, coupled with his penchant for trade wars, could lead to a split between the US and Europe, which would serve China's strategic interests. Additionally, Trump's affinity for Russian President Vladimir Putin could result in lifting sanctions on Russia, benefiting China by reducing the risk of secondary sanctions on Chinese firms. Moreover, Trump's unpredictable use of sanctions could push more countries to adopt China's alternative financial systems, aiding Beijing's efforts to insulate itself from US economic pressures. In the global competition for critical raw materials essential for the green energy transition, Trump's disdain for developing nations could further isolate the US, giving China an advantage in securing these resources. Furthermore, Trump's potential expansion of export controls could weaken US clean tech industries, allowing China to solidify its dominance in the sector. If you want to know more about China's position on Trump and the US elections, reply with the word China in the comments, and we'll try to make a video about that. Give Trump a week in the White House, and he'll have the US renege membership from NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, is a military alliance formed in 1949 to provide collective defense against aggression, primarily from the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It consists of 31 member countries that pledge mutual defense in response to an attack against any member. In the Russo-Ukrainian War, NATO provided significant military, financial, and logistical support to Ukraine, helping it resist Russian aggression, defend its sovereignty, and maintain its territorial integrity. At the core of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and enshrined in Article 5 of the treaty, is a promise of collective defense, that an attack on one member nation is an attack on all the nations in the alliance. Trump has long complained about the amount NATO members spend on defense compared to the US. Retired General John Kelly, who served as Trump's White House Chief of Staff, revealed Trump's disdain for US security commitments, including those with South Korea and Japan. Kelly noted that Trump saw no value in NATO or in maintaining deterrent forces in Asia. According to Kelly, Trump believed that if NATO didn't exist, Russia's actions would be less aggressive. If the US were to leave NATO, it would weaken the alliance and directly benefit Russia in its war against Ukraine. The US has been a key source of military support for Ukraine, and its departure would diminish NATO's deterrence and unity. Now, this could embolden Russia to escalate its aggression, as NATO might struggle to respond effectively without US leadership. Additionally, the psychological impact of US withdrawal would signal a weakening Western resolve, potentially allowing Russia to assert more influence in Eastern Europe and beyond, making Ukraine more vulnerable to Russian advances. Putin can't wait for the day Trump comes back into power, and he's doing everything he can to get the job done. After all, Russia has done it once. They might as well do it again. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more geopolitics and economics content. And if you want to stick around for a little while longer, check out some of our other videos on our channel.